Emily Parker leaned back in her swivel chair, rubbing her temples as the blue glow of her laptop screen reflected off her tired eyes. The soft hum of her apartment's heater was the only sound in the otherwise silent building. The city outside had long since gone to sleep, leaving her in an eerie bubble of quiet. Freelance deadlines were nothing new to Emily, but tonight felt different, like the kind of quiet that presses against your ears and refuses to let go. Her phone vibrated on the desk. A glance at the screen made her pause. Unknown number. She frowned. Late-night calls were rarely anything good. With a shrug, she answered. "Hello?" A pause. Then a voice, playful, teasing, almost casual. "Emily Parker," it said. "Are you alone?" Emily's stomach tightened. She forced a laugh. "Who is this? Some prank call?" A soft chuckle, low and unsettling. "Maybe, maybe not. Depends on how brave you are." Emily rolled her eyes, thinking of her co-workers who loved to prank one another. "Okay, very funny. Who is this?" The voice didn't answer immediately, just a long, deliberate pause. When it spoke again, it was slower, almost taunting. "I see you, even now." Her laugh died in her throat. She tilted the phone away, scanning the dimly lit room. The apartment was exactly as it always was. Her laptop, the small stack of books by the chair, a mug still half full with cold coffee. Nothing unusual, nothing except the voice. Emily shook her head and forced a smile. "Very funny. Whoever you are, you got me," she said, trying to laugh it off. The line went dead. She sat in silence for a moment, heart beat a little faster than usual. Maybe it was a prank, maybe, but an uncomfortable shiver ran down her spine. She told herself to ignore it. People played pranks, it was harmless. Yet when she finally leaned back and reached for her mug, something small and off caught her eye. A shadow flickered across the living room wall. Her heart skipped a beat. Probably the heater vent or the streetlight outside. She told herself it was nothing, but for the first time in years, Emily felt a subtle sense of unease she couldn't shake. The night passed slowly. Emily made herself a cup of herbal tea, paced the apartment a little, and tried to focus on her work. Every creak of the building felt louder than usual. The soft whisper of wind outside sounded like someone's footstep, and every time her phone vibrated, her chest jumped. Around 2 a.m., she finally decided to call it a night. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard as she typed a quick message to her friend Lauren. "Got a weird call, probably a prank, sleepy. Ugh." She hit send, feeling slightly reassured. If nothing else, talking about it made the feeling smaller. She dimmed the lights, slid into bed, and tried to convince herself that the night was over. For a few minutes it worked. Her eyes grew heavy, the soft rhythm of her breathing became steady, the tension ebbing away. Then her phone vibrated again. Emily bolted upright. The screen flashed. Unknown number. "Not again," she muttered, fumbling to answer. The voice was quieter this time, almost intimate. "You think it's over? You think you're safe?" Emily swallowed hard. Her fingers trembled. "Who are you? What do you want?" Another pause. Then the voice said softly, almost like it was whispering in her ear, "I'm closer than you think." Emily froze. A cold gust of wind brushed her neck. She glanced at the window, locked, curtains drawn, yet somehow the words felt real. Her mind raced. 1,000 paranoid thoughts crossed her head. Someone in her apartment? A stalker? But no, her apartment building was secure. The door locks knew. It had to be in her head. She got out of bed and crept toward the living room, phone clutched to her chest. She checked the front door, locked. The back door, also locked. The windows were closed, the blinds drawn. Every rational part of her brain screamed that she was imagining things, and yet she couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching. Emily spent the rest of the night pacing, checking locks, peering through the blinds, listening. Every sound, the wind tapping against the window, a car passing by, made her jump. She couldn't sleep. By the time the first light of dawn touched the skyline, her mind was exhausted. When her phone buzzed again, she almost dropped it. She checked. No call this time, just a text. "Sleep well. We'll talk soon." Her stomach twisted. She showed it to herself in the harsh light of the morning, trying to rationalize it. Probably a prank, someone playing a cruel joke, that's all. Still, she couldn't shake the unease. Something about the voice had felt personal, knowing, too knowing. She thought back to the project she was working on, the people she interacted with. Was it someone from her past? A stranger? That morning, Emily went about her day with her usual routine, but the feeling of being watched never left. She avoided looking over her shoulder, avoided unnecessary social interaction, and kept checking her phone. Every unknown number made her heart jump. Every knock at the door made her pulse race. By evening, she was on edge. The shadows in her apartment seemed to deepen. Every sound was amplified. The faucet dripping, the hum of the refrigerator, the whisper of wind across the window. She double-checked the locks, then backed away slowly, half expecting to see someone inside. Nothing. And then, just as she was about to collapse on the couch, her phone lit up again. The text was simple, one line. "I'm already inside your head." Her hands went cold. Her breath caught in her throat. The words weren't just a message, they were a warning. She dropped her phone on the couch, trembling, staring at the screen. Every logical explanation failed. Her blood ran cold. For the first time, Emily realized this was no prank. Someone had planned this. Someone had been watching her, waiting for the right moment to make her afraid. The apartment, which had always felt like a safe haven, now seemed like a trap. Every door, every window, every shadow could hide someone waiting to step out. Emily's mind raced through every possibility, every scenario, but none of them could prepare her for what was coming next. The night stretched on. Emily didn't sleep. She sat on the edge of her bed, phone in hand, staring at the door. Every creak, every whisper of movement outside sent a shiver down her spine. She wanted to tell herself it would be okay. She wanted to convince herself it was just a prank. But deep down, she knew the truth. Her life had just changed forever. The call had only just begun. Emily Parker hadn't slept since the first call. Every creak, every faint rustle in her apartment made her jump. She tried to work, tried to focus on her graphic design projects, but her hands trembled as she scrolled through emails. The first day after the call, she told herself it was over. It had to be. But it wasn't. That evening, her phone vibrated. Unknown number. She froze. Her fingers hovered above the screen. Heart pounding, she swiped to answer. "Emily," the voice whispered, not teasing this time, calm, deliberate, and knowing. "I've been watching. I know what you did today." Her pulse spiked. "Who is this? What do you want from me?" A laugh, low and unnerving. "I just want to play. Don't worry, you'll see me soon enough." The line went dead. Emily sank onto the couch, gripping her phone like a lifeline. She tried to reason with herself. Maybe it's a hacker, someone trolling online. Maybe it's just a sick prank. I'm overreacting. But the details in the voice, the way it referred to her day, the subtle observations were too precise. She hadn't shared anything online that could explain it. By the next morning, her anxiety had grown into a constant gnawing fear. She couldn't eat, couldn't focus, and every noise in her apartment made her flinch. Her friends noticed. "Emily, you look awful, Lauren," said Lauren during their morning coffee. "You've been on edge for days. What's going on?" Emily hesitated. I got a weird phone call. Maybe it's just a prank, but—" Her voice faltered. "It felt personal." Lauren frowned. "Personal how?" Emily shook her head. "I can't explain it. I can't stop thinking about it." Lauren suggested she contact the police. Emily hesitated, but the fear gnawed at her enough to pick up the phone. Detective Harris was polite but unhelpful. "Unknown numbers? Could be a prankster. We get these all the time. Without more evidence, there's little we can do. Keep a log of calls. Install cameras if it makes you feel safer." Cameras. That seemed reasonable. Emily spent the afternoon installing small security cameras around her apartment, the entry points, the hallway, and even the living room. She felt slightly safer, though the sense of being watched didn't fully disappear. The next call came at 11:07 p.m., just as Emily was trying to settle into bed. "I see you," the voice said. "I know where you are. I know who's with you. And tonight I'll be closer than ever." Emily's blood ran cold. She glanced at her bedroom window, locked, curtains drawn, every door locked. The voice was inside her head now, a shadow she couldn't escape. She didn't sleep that night, not really. She sat in the dark, knees pulled to her chest, listening for the faintest sign of movement. Every creak in the building, every distant siren made her jump. 2 nights later, the calls escalated. It wasn't just words anymore. Small packages appeared on her doorstep. An old photograph of her as a child, a single shoe from her closet, a lipstick-stained note that read, "I see you everywhere." Emily's panic surged. She called Mark, her boyfriend, shaking. "Mark, something's really wrong. Someone's watching me," she whispered, voice quivering. "It's probably just someone messing with you online. Maybe a prank. Don't let it scare you." But Emily knew better. She had learned the voice too well. It wasn't random. It wasn't a joke. She began noticing subtle changes in her apartment. Objects slightly moved. The lights flickered at times she wasn't touching the switch. She found a small smear of dirt on her windowsill, though she never opened it. The fear was no longer abstract. It was tangible. Emily became obsessed with tracking her calls. She downloaded apps, tried to trace numbers, blocked every unknown caller, but the calls kept coming, now from numbers she didn't recognize and others that seemed to come from within her own area code. She started sleeping with her laptop and phone beside her. Every vibration, every notification made her flinch. Every creak in the apartment felt amplified. Every shadow seemed to move. Friends and neighbors noticed her change. Emily stopped going out. She canceled plans. Mark tried to help, but tension grew between them. "Emily, you can't live like this. You need to stop obsessing. If it's just a prank—" "It's not just a prank," she snapped. Tears ran down her face. "I know it's not. He knows everything about me. He's inside my apartment. I can feel it." Mark sighed, unsure how to respond. He wanted to comfort her, but her fear seemed to push him away. That night, alone again, Emily received a call that froze her blood. "Look behind you." Her eyes shot to the bedroom door, empty, her window closed, her locked doors secure, yet the words reverberated in her mind like a dark echo. Her pulse racing, she crept from the bedroom to the living room, glancing at the security cameras on her laptop. The footage was clear, normal, empty, no sign of anyone. Then, from the back of the apartment, she heard it, a faint scraping sound, like someone dragging a shoe across the floor. Emily froze, chest tightening. She couldn't breathe. Every rational thought told her no one could be inside. But the sound was real. It was too deliberate, too precise to be imagination. She grabbed her phone and dialed 911. The line rang once, twice, 3 times, then a click. Dead. She tried again. Dead air. The scraping continued, slowly, deliberately, moving closer to her bedroom. Emily's hands shook as she picked up the largest kitchen knife she could find, clutching it like a lifeline. Every step she took was measured, silent, careful. Her mind raced with possibilities. Who could it be? Why her? And more importantly, how would she survive if he was inside? A shadow moved past the camera's viewfinder on her laptop screen. Just for a second, she froze, staring at the flickering image. Her stomach dropped. Someone was here. Someone had been inside her apartment while she slept. Then her phone vibrated again. Unknown number. The voice was soft, almost amused. Closer than you think. Emily's knees buckled. She sank to the floor, holding the knife in trembling hands. This was no longer about prank calls. It was about survival. For the first time, she realized she wasn't safe in her own home. She wasn't safe anywhere. The predator knew her every move, and now he was inside her apartment. The room felt smaller, the shadows longer, every sound, the fridge humming, the clock ticking, the faint wind outside was amplified in her ears. The world she once knew had narrowed to the size of her apartment, and in that space, fear ruled. Emily didn't know how much longer she could last, but she knew one thing for certain. She had to be smarter than him, faster. Every second mattered, and that night, as the city slept obliviously outside her window, Emily Parker understood a terrifying truth. She was no longer just a victim of a prank call. She was being hunted. Emily Parker's apartment was no longer her home. It had become a cage, each shadow a potential threat, each sound a harbinger of danger. She had barricaded herself in the bedroom, knife in hand, eyes wide in the dim glow of her laptop screen. Every instinct screamed at her to run, yet every step felt perilous. The calls had become physical threats now, the packages, the notes, the faint sounds of movement. Someone was inside. A soft scraping echoed from the living room. Emily's breath caught. Her pulse hammered so loudly she feared it would give her away. She pressed her back against the bedroom wall, gripping the knife as if it were the only thing standing between her and death. The screeping grew louder, deliberate and controlled. Each step sounded slow, measured, someone who knew how to move quietly but wanted her to hear it. Emily tried calling 911. The line rang and then clicked dead. Again and again, panic clawed at her chest. She had no help coming. She was alone. She needed a plan. Slowly, cautiously, she inched toward the door, eyes darting to the living room. Shadows danced across the hallway as the faint moonlight from the window cut through the darkness. Her mind raced. Could she escape? Could she fight? Could she survive the night? And then she saw it, a figure in the living room frozen for just a second in the camera's reflection on her TV screen. Her stomach dropped. A man, tall, lean, wearing dark clothes, not masked, just unnervingly calm, watching, waiting. Emily's legs trembled. She barely dared to breathe. Her mind flashed back to the calls, the texts, the notes. It wasn't random. It wasn't someone breaking in for money or revenge. It was personal. Someone she knew. Someone who had been obsessed with her without her realizing it. The intruder moved closer, stepping over the threshold into the hallway, eyes fixed on the bedroom door. Emily could see him clearly now, his face partially obscured by the shadows, but the malicious satisfaction in his eyes unmistakable. Her hand shook violently as she tightened the grip on the knife. Every survival instinct screamed at her, "Don't run, don't scream, don't let him know you're scared." But fear betrayed her. A low sob escaped her throat. The man tilted his head, almost amused. "Don't be scared, Emily. I've been patient, I've watched, and now it's time to play." Emily's heart froze. That voice, so familiar, so chillingly calm. She gasped, recognition hitting her like a blow. It was Ryan, a coworker from a project she had led months ago, someone she had barely noticed before, someone who had smiled at her, helped her, and smiled again when she walked away. She had never imagined he could be capable of this. "Ryan, why?" Her voice was trembling. He didn't answer immediately. He just stepped closer, slow, deliberate, like a predator savoring the moment. "Do you remember the workshop? How you dismissed me? How no one ever noticed me except you? I noticed you. I've always noticed you." Emily's mind raced. The pieces clicked together. Odd emails, strange comments, the way he had lingered in her life unnoticed. She had ignored the signs, and now it had escalated to this nightmare. Her eyes darted around the room, searching for anything she could use. Her phone, dead. Calling for help, dead. Only the knife, her wits, and the room itself. Ryan's steps were deliberate now, echoing through the hallway. Emily backed into the corner, pressing herself against the wall, mind spinning for an escape. He reached the doorway. She could see the grin now, a cruel, almost playful smile. And then he lunged. Emily shrieked and swung the knife instinctively. It grazed his arm, causing him to stagger back slightly. Not much, but enough. She realized she had a fighting chance. She bolted toward the hallway, slipping past him, her heart hammering. Every step echoed in the apartment. Every shadow seemed alive. Ryan recovered almost instantly, chasing her with unnerving speed. Emily reached the kitchen, yanking open the cabinets and grabbing anything she could find. A rolling pin, a heavy skillet, even a glass vase. She hurled them at him as she ran. The vase shattered against the wall behind him. Ryan's grin faltered for just a moment Emily seized. She sprinted for the back door. It was locked as always. Panic surged. She yanked the deadbolt, but her hands were shaking too much. Behind her, Ryan was advancing, calm, patient, relentless. Then she saw the basement door open slightly. Desperation made the decision for her. She bolted into the dark staircase, the smell of damp concrete filling her nose. She ran down, feeling the cold walls press in on either side. Ryan didn't hesitate. She could hear his steps above her now, light but precise. She had to think fast. At the bottom of the stairs was a small storage room. She slammed the door, barricading it with a metal shelf. Her chest heaved as she tried to catch her breath, knife still in hand. Through the small gap under the door, she saw his shadow on the stairs. He was patient, methodical, circling, waiting. Her phone vibrated in her pocket. A text, unknown number. "You can't hide forever." Emily's stomach churned. She realized the depth of his obsession. This wasn't a random attack. It was personal, and he had planned every step, every move. She needed to survive. Creeping through the basement, Emily searched for anything to defend herself. Old tools, boxes, anything. She grabbed a heavy wrench and waited, listening. Each step he took above was like a hammer pounding against her nerves. Then she remembered the emergency ladder in the storage closet. She could climb out through the small basement window and run to the alley behind the building. Her pulse surged with hope. Carefully, she positioned the ladder, glanced back at the door. He was still upstairs, unmoving, almost smug. She climbed silently, praying the floorboards didn't creak. Each inch felt like an eternity. At last, she reached the small window, shoved it open, and slipped outside. The alley smelled of damp brick and garbage. She didn't look back. She ran fast until the streetlights of the nearby main road were in sight.
Somewhere behind her, she heard a faint noise, a step, a whisper, but she didn't stop. She reached a neighbor's apartment, pounding on the door, screaming for help. By the time the police arrived, Ryan was gone. No signs of forced entry upstairs, nothing out of place except Emily's sheer terror. Detective Harris looked at her, concern etched in his face. "You got out just in time. He's good, very good, but you did the right thing. We'll find him." Emily sank to the floor, trembling. Her hands still shook from adrenaline. She felt the weight of realization pressing down. The man who had stalked her, terrorized her, almost killed her, was someone she knew, someone she had trusted in the past. And she also realized with cold clarity that the nightmare wasn't over. Ryan had vanished tonight, but he was still out there, still watching, still patient. And Emily Parker knew with every fiber of her being that their story was far from finished. The early morning air was crisp and still when Emily Parker finally let herself breathe. She sat on the steps of her neighbor's apartment, trembling, heart hammering, hands shaking. The adrenaline had begun to ebb, leaving behind a cold, hollow exhaustion. She clutched the wrench she had used in the basement, the only weapon that had kept her alive. Detective Harris crouched beside her, notebook in hand, eyes scanning the alley. "You're safe now," he said, though his tone betrayed the concern he didn't voice fully. "We've called in the team. We'll canvass the area, check cameras, track his movements. He won't get far." Emily tried to believe him, but deep down, a gnawing dread remained. Ryan was patient, calculated. He had planned every step, and patience was his weapon. She knew that even if the police found him tonight, the obsession didn't end with capture. Back in her apartment, the place that had been her sanctuary was now a crime scene. Every corner had been inspected, every lock checked, yet everything seemed normal on the surface. The police found nothing. No signs of forced entry, no fingerprints except Emily's. Ryan had been meticulous, leaving almost no trace. Harris shook his head as he examined the footage from the security cameras. "He's smart. He's careful. The cameras caught nothing, just shadows. He knew exactly how to move in your home." Emily shivered. "It wasn't random. He knew me. He knew everything about me." Harris nodded slowly. "We'll get to that, but right now, we need to figure out who he is, who he really is." The breakthrough came the next day. Emily, exhausted but determined, went through old messages, emails, and social media connections. Something she had dismissed months ago clicked into place. A seemingly harmless coworker, Ryan Matthews, had shown an unusual interest in her. Subtle comments, lingering glances, questions no one else asked. At the time, she had smiled politely, thanked him, and moved on. Now, it was sinister. Every little detail she had ignored, the smile that lingered too long, the helpful advice that always seemed to come at the wrong moment, the way he'd always show up exactly when she didn't expect, was part of a larger pattern. Detective Harris confirmed it. "Ryan Matthews," he said. "Background check shows obsession tendencies, restraining order history, minor harassment incidents. He's been close to you for months, possibly longer. This wasn't a coincidence. He's been planning this." Emily felt bile rise in her throat. "Months? Planning this?" Harris nodded grimly. "We have to assume he's still watching. He knows your habits, your routine. The safest thing for you is to leave this apartment temporarily. Go somewhere secure. Don't let him know where you're going." Reluctantly, Emily agreed. She packed essentials, her mind a whirlwind of fear and calculation. Every detail mattered now. She couldn't let herself be predictable. Every moment she had ignored Ryan's subtle signs had brought her to this point. Every small interaction had been a thread in a web he had carefully spun. Emily stayed with Lauren for several nights, leaving the police to monitor the apartment. But even there, Emily couldn't escape the creeping dread. Every sound of a car engine, every phone vibration, every passerby made her jump. Then, a week later, the police caught Ryan, but not before another chilling revelation. They discovered hidden cameras inside her apartment, expertly placed in areas she had never suspected. Microphones, motion sensors, even devices that could transmit audio remotely. He had been inside her home before, watching her life unfold in secret. Emily felt the walls of reality collapse around her. Ryan hadn't just been a coworker, a friendly face. He had been a predator, orchestrating every move to terrorize her. She survived, barely, but the psychological scars ran deep. During interrogation, Ryan's demeanor was eerily calm. "She saw me," he said softly, almost admiringly. "She knows who I am now. But she's strong. I like that." Emily couldn't understand it. The obsession, the calm cruelty, the meticulous planning. It was terrifyingly methodical. In the following weeks, Emily began therapy to process the trauma. Every shadow in a room, every unfamiliar noise, every phone call, even if harmless, set her heart racing. She learned to rebuild her sense of safety step by step. Her apartment was equipped with advanced security, every lock and alarm system upgraded, friends and family stayed close, and yet a tiny, insidious doubt lingered. Could she ever truly be safe? Detective Harris reassured her. "Ryan's in custody. He won't be able to get to you again. Legally, he's done. Psychologically, that's your journey now." Even with that reassurance, Emily couldn't shake the feeling that danger wasn't fully gone. Obsession, she realized, didn't end with imprisonment. It simply evolved. One evening, months later, Emily sat in her apartment, a book in hand, trying to settle her nerves. The city outside was calm, the hum of traffic familiar, reassuring. She was starting to feel normal, almost safe. Then her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Emily's fingers froze, heart rate spiked. She stared at the screen. Her hand shook as she considered ignoring it. Maybe it was a wrong number, maybe it was spam, but instinct told her to check. A single message appeared. "See you soon." Emily swallowed hard, her breath caught in her throat. Despite the therapy, the precautions, the upgraded security, the fear returned, cold, sharp, insistent. She put the phone down and exhaled slowly, trying to steady herself. The nightmare wasn't over. Ryan's capture had stopped the immediate threat, but obsession didn't end with prison bars. And Emily Parker, stronger than she realized, knew one truth. She would survive, but she would never let her guard down again. The city outside was quiet. Inside, Emily Parker's apartment felt safe, for now. But the shadow of the past lingered. The calls, the stalking, the terror, it had left its mark. She survived Ryan's obsession, but in her mind, she understood a chilling reality. Some predators never truly disappear, and some nightmares never end.